Welcome to the It's In You podcast by Renee Elliott. I'm here to help you find your balance and live your best life guilt-free. I don't believe there's a one-size-fits-all approach for health and fitness. We're all different and we need to find out what works for us. I'm passionate about helping women make realistic, long-term lifestyle changes that they will stick to and they'll be able to take with them forever. I don't believe in crazy diets or short-term fixes. We all need to find a life and a balance that suits our individual needs. I believe we need to dig deeper and work on our mindset first so we can be prepared to face any hurdle throughout your wellness journey. I'm here to give you the confidence and knowledge to do so. So welcome to the It's In You podcast by Renee Elliott, because it is in you.
Hello. How is everybody today? So today I want to talk about not good enough syndrome. So are you somebody that suffers from this? And I think a lot of us tend to suffer from feeling that we are not good enough or we are not doing enough in order to achieve our health and fitness goals. Something that I want you after today to start questioning. Maybe it's something you've never questioned before. So, the thing is that the diet industry is not teaching us how to deal with the things that are going on in our mind. And lots of times it's these things that are going on in our mind that stop us from continuing our journey and getting the results that you want. We are being brought up thinking that certain things should be a certain way, and it should be a certain way, and we have to do this in order to get this result that we're looking for. But I want you to think about today is when is enough enough? The not good enough syndrome may sound something like this for you. Oh, this won't matter if I do this. I should be doing more. This won't be enough to get the results I'm wanting. I don't care if I eat this. If you are somebody that has thoughts like that going on in your head, then maybe you could be suffering from the not good enough syndrome. So we all have this kind of false idea of what enough should be, or what enough should be in order to get the result. But no one is teaching us how to actually question it. And, when you start any type of diet, and maybe think of some diets that you've done in the past, keto, the Fast 800, fasting, the Whole 30, any of those things. And if you don't encompass all of their rules and guidelines, and if you don't stick to it how exactly, then you are not doing enough. If you have done this before, I want you to stop, tell yourself that it's okay, and give yourself some grace and compassion, and really see that what you were doing was actually enough. And by trying to fit into a mold of some program that's not suited to you and where you are at, is not your fault that you couldn't. We've been conditioned to believe that this is what we have to do in order to get the result, when actually it's a lot simpler than that. And the thing is that people, when you tell them like, we just need to do this or just take this one step, our brains don't want to accept that, because we've been conditioned and taught that losing weight or living healthy or exercising has to be difficult. It can't be easy because we've been taught it has to be difficult. But the truth is it doesn't. All it has to do is it has to work for you, not for somebody else, for you. And I'm going to teach you today how to question these things and question yourself and start to navigate and work out a plan that is going to work for you so you can stick to it forever. We've been taught around this idea of restricting and restricting, and that's the only way that we can do it, and we have to starve ourselves, and it's so not so far from the truth. And the other thing is that we have been brought up this way that we don't question it. We just believe it, and we just take this on, and then we start believing that if we don't do exactly as these people say or as what we've been taught through our life, then it's not good enough. But today I want to address it, and I want you to really start questioning what is good enough for you. Is when we have this thinking that we're not doing enough, then it's actually the thing that's stopping us, because we think that some people, they think that they're not doing enough. So they think, why even start? Why do anything? And we're going by these rules and these guidelines that you might not even know where that came from, or who is to say that what you're saying is not good enough is true. I have all people come up and they say, you have to eat this way. And I'll say, why? Like, why do you only, I think someone was saying something today about suddenly that now somebody was saying that you can't even eat vegetables, but why? Yeah. Who says this? Who says that you have to be a vegan, or who says that you have to only eat white meat, or who says that you can't eat this after a certain time? Where did all these rules come from, and what's stopping you and making you think that you are not doing enough or you're not good enough? All of these things that we've been taught is actually it's making us stop and not do anything at all. I want you when you are starting something new, and you are just starting one thing, and these little thoughts come into your brain and tell you that you're not doing enough. I want you to stop and to thank your brain and say, I'm actually doing pretty good right now. I am doing pretty good right now. The most key thing to understand is our brains are wired to keep us safe. So they are wired to keep us safe. But the thing to understand, that being safe is not necessarily the best thing for us. Being safe is what's familiar to the brain. So if you are somebody that has spent a long time dieting, if you've yo-yoed for many years, if you've done if you've been restrictive, if you've tried over exercise, then your brain's going to think that that's the norm. Where, and if you try to do something different, it will try to convince you that you're not doing enough. But I want you to recognize when your brain starts to tell you this. So I want you to recognize it, and we're going to question it. Okay, we're going to say, no, thank you. Thanks for that thought, but I'm actually doing okay. And we're just going to take this one little step forward. Anything that I've done over the years to stay fit or active, or if I've tried to lose weight, it has never been anything that's restrictive. I've never been able to, you've never been able to stick to it. And anyone that I know, any of the clients that I've taught over the many years that I've been a trainer, anyone that's done anything restrictive has never been able to stick to it for life. You may have initially lost weight, but the weight has come back on, and 9 out of 10 people, they put on even more weight than what they lost. So the thing is that this all or nothing mentality that we've been brought up thinking, the thoughts of that dieting and losing weight has to be really hard and has to be restrictive, and we have to over exercise, all of these things is actually working against you instead of working for you. And they're not getting you anywhere. The people that I've seen that have had results and have been able to maintain the results and keep it off have made really small steps. They've made small steps that have worked in with their lifestyle, and they've slowly chipped away at stuff. So there's so much that they'll say to me, I didn't even think I was on a diet. They didn't feel that way because they were just making these small steps, chipping away, but still living their life in the same time. And that is the most effective way to get long-term results. Let's say we are on a goal to lose weight. Let's just start writing down what you're eating. Just start to become aware. The first thing I do with people is I ask them, what did they eat in that day? And they'll always say, today's not a good day. But let's get rid of this good or bad. Just start recognizing what you're eating. And, it's understanding that, some people will say, this happened and that happened, or I ate this, but let's just start to recognize, what are we eating? And are we eating food because we need it, or are we eating it because it was put on the table at work? Or are we eating it? I had a habit of, during when I worked in an office, when in our office break, to get out of the office, I'd go for a walk, and I would get a chocolate bar. And that started happening every day, and when I started looking at my habits, and I thought, well, that's one thing I can cut out. And I changed that. I changed it. And any little changes that I've been able to make, they've been ones that have never been restrictive, and you just make that one little change. Oh, I'm not going to go for that walk. I'm not telling myself I can never have chocolate again. I'm just saying that having one every day and going down to that walk isn't supporting where I'd like to be. So I might look at reducing that. And that's what I'm saying. So once you start to write things down, you can get an awareness of what you're eating. That's it. Nothing restrictive. Just start becoming aware of what you're eating. Or do you know what? Most people that I meet are not eating enough food. And it's really hard to get them to understand that you actually need to eat more food in order to lose weight, because you are not eating enough and your body is in starvation mode and it is just trying to survive. And then the thing is that when we start doing these simple things, like just looking at one habit at a time, you're then forced with this problem of our brain screaming at us saying, we're not doing enough. You are not doing enough. It's not enough. You need to work harder. You need to do this more. Again, just start small and start questioning what is enough for you. So why is our brain doing this? So why is this telling us these things all the time? Well, number one, we have really been brought up to be perfect. We're brought up to do what we're told, to do what we've been taught from our parents, your teachers, grandparents, people, influencers in your sports and coaches, all those things, people that influence your life. We have been brought up with their set of rules and their guidelines. And the thing is, we then become adults and we don't question these guidelines that we've been brought up with. So you then carry on their rules that you've been taught and you don't question where it comes from. Who has, as a child, got taught, I know that I got told that you couldn't swim, you couldn't go swimming for 30 minutes after you ate food, that you had to wait for 30 minutes. And when I had my kids, I said the same thing. And then I went, hang on, why do you have to do that? And, it was just something that I was taught, but maybe it's not something that you have to do. And we never question them because we just believe that of what we've been told and what we've been brought up. I want you to start questioning what is good enough for you. What is enough for you? Not what is enough for your parents, not what is enough for your partner, your friends, or anyone else, but what is enough for you on your weight loss journey. What is enough? And what is enough for you in the current situation that you're in? So I really want you to think about what is enough for the current situation you're in. And this is something that I am very good at doing. And it is something that because I understand how my body works, because I've spent years studying my own body and recognizing signs, I'm really on top of trying to manage my stress levels and all of that. And I know what works for me and I know what doesn't work for me, but the only reason I know this stuff is from trial and error. And I question myself. And what I find is lots of people don't start questioning themselves. So because of this, I'm able to look at a situation that I'm in and say, this is the situation I'm in at the moment. And by trying to add on all this extra stress of a diet, one of those things is not good for me at the moment. So I am just going to do what I can. Because we put this extra pressure on ourselves and then we feel like we're not doing enough or we feel like we're not good enough. So what do? You either go further into a hole. You go further into a hole and you do nothing. But you know what? Taking one step forward and doing something is better than nothing. We have this belief of exercising that you have to exercise for hours on end or exercise for a certain amount every week for a certain amount of times. But maybe it's just understanding that you just need to move. You don't have to exercise until you vomit. You don't have to be so sore the next day that you can't walk. None of that stuff is going to give you a better result. Consistency and continuing just to move is the thing that you need. But you just move in the way that's going to work for you. I want you to start questioning yourself and ask yourself What is enough for me in the situation that I'm currently in? And what feels good for you? So, I see so many people going back to what they did 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or, well, I did this. And when I was, but your situation is different. You can't even compare. If I compare myself to 10 years ago, I had no kids. I compare myself to 20 years ago, I was living overseas. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have any of those other things. I worked differently. I was able to go to the gym, 6 days a week. I can't do that now because my situation is different. I need to train differently because I need to train around my lifestyle is now. You are not the same person that you were 20 years ago, but that's okay. You're still a great person. Your situation is different. So we can't stop comparing to your past or to what you used to do and just start thinking, what is the situation you're in now? What is going to work for you where you're at now? And the other thing is, how can you then, when we decide what this is, how are you going to deal with it when people have their little thoughts on what you're doing? When they tell you, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, or you shouldn't be eating that, or, oh, are you sure you should be doing that? Are you doing enough? Or they tell you that you're doing too much. Everybody has an opinion. But my thing is that somebody has an opinion, it's generally how they feel about themselves, or it's some reflection of something about them. So that's their fault, and that's what I want you to remember all the time. When I was pregnant and I exercised, everybody had opinion of it. Everybody said I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. You shouldn't be exercising with the baby, blah, blah, blah. They all had an opinion on it. And you know what? That's not my problem. That's their problem. I exercised because it felt good for my head. I exercised because I wanted to move. I didn't want to get sore and stiff. I exercised because I felt, my belief was, the more that I move, it will make my pregnancy easier, my birth easier, and my recovery after pregnancy. I didn't want to not do anything, but that's what worked for me. And I had to learn to switch off from everybody having an opinion about it. So whatever you're doing, I want you to think about, how are you going to cope with everyone else having an opinion about whatever you're doing? Because they will do. But I want you to remember, it's generally a reflection upon them. The next thing I want you to think about is, how are you going to deal with all these thoughts that come up when you're starting doing what is enough for you? Because thoughts will come up. There's going to be fear, because there's going to be fear that what happens if you fail? What happens if you don't, you can't stick to what you thought you could do? But you just reassess, because, that's how you learn. That's how I learn. I try one thing, that didn't work for me. Okay, I'm going to try something different now. Oh, I need to fall down about 10 times before I've worked out a way. And I've done that for the last 20 years. And then I just keep learning. But my situation changes. Oh, I didn't have kids. I could do this, this, this. Oh, I have kids now. I can't do what I used to do. This needs to change in this way. Oh, my work is like this. I need to change. Blah, blah. We all have to change and adapt as to where you're at. But I want you to think about, how are you going to deal with the worries and the anxiety and all those fear thoughts that are going to come up. The fear of that you aren't doing enough, that you need to do more, that you need to work harder, because they will come up. So think about, how could you deal with it? How could you deal with it when those thoughts come up? I would see when those thoughts come up as a positive sign, because you're doing something different. Those thoughts are going to come up, and think about it. Oh, good. This is something different, because what got you here is not going to get you there. And if we keep thinking that we can do the same thing, it's that insanity quote, do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So, understanding that the same thing isn't going to get us where we want to be. So we need to be doing something different. So if I'm having these worry thoughts and these fear thoughts, then recognize it and be like, yes, I'm that one step closer to really continuing on my journey and getting where I want to be, and becoming happy with my body and content and feeling really good within myself. Because, again, the brain will remind you of what you're doing is not familiar, so it will see it as unsafe. and it will tell you to stop. And we are going to recognize it. We are going to high five it, and we're going to tell ourselves that we're okay. The next thing I want you to think about, and I would like you to really define what your enough is, and know that that's okay. So whatever your enough is, let go of all the rules and the guidelines of what you've been told before, and think about what is your enough. What is enough for you? I give people a step count to reach I give it to you guys to reach a certain step count. But sometimes I individualize it to people because I know where they're at, and I know what's enough for them, because we talk about it. And it doesn't have to be this, because your enough is suited to you. Probably your enough is something that, we really need to spend time and write it down and really explore it. Explore and take the time to write down and think about what is enough for you, and what can I realistically stick to. And how would this work for you? So, it's all good to write down and do all these things, and, but then we've got to think, how is it going to fit into my life? How is eating separate meals from the whole family going to work for you? Is spending, prepping your meals, is that going to work for you? And it's really starting to be honest with yourself. Not with what we think we should do, what we believe we've been told, but start being honest with yourself as what is going to be good enough for you, what is going to not add extra stress onto your life, what is good enough for you. And I want you to write down is, what does losing weight look like for me in my current situation right now? So what does it look like for you? So I want you to write that down, and the things that you've written down that you're doing. So I would recommend to pause this and really take the time to nut this stuff out. So write down what it would look like for you. If you have listed on the list of things, I want you to give it a rating of a 1 to 4 of how you feel you could do it. So 1 would be, no, I'm not really that motivated to do that. And 4 would be a hell yes, I'm definitely motivated. So if we've written down what losing weight in my current situation looks like to me, and then I want you to give it a number of 1 to a 4. Now, once you've done that, you've given it a number, I want you to really look at it, and I want you to think anything that you've labeled between a 1 and a 2, we're just not going to do it. Because why do something that you're not going to, they're not really that motivated to do, and you're not going to stick to it. So I want you to cross those out. Anything that's between a 3 or a 4, then I think we can do it. The things that you've written that are 1 or 2, I want you to question, where did those thoughts come from? So where did those things come from? And are you putting yourself in a box that you're never going to be able to stick to it? You're putting yourself in a box of things to do that you've been told by someone else that you should be doing. And if you're not motivated enough to do it, then don't do it. Because weight loss has to be unique to you, and it has to be something that you can stick to forever. So when we've written this list of what is good enough for us, I really want you to I want you to write another list of what do you think the diet industry is telling you that is good enough for you, or what you should be doing. Now, we want to look at these lists and compare them. So one side is going to be what is enough for you, and then the other side is what the diet industry is telling you. So what are those thoughts or beliefs that you've been told that you should be doing in order to lose weight? I really want you to compare these things. Decide if there's anything on the list, either side, that you want to do. If there's things on the list that you don't want to do, that doesn't line up with your values or your beliefs or your current situation, just rub it out and let go of it, and question, where did these even come from? Where did I get told this? Was I told this by Auntie Jean, who's 100 years old, and she doesn't even understand our current situation? Have I been told this from an old work colleague that had these different belief systems to me. Was I told this? Did I read this in a magazine article? Did I hear some little thing about this? Where did we even get these thoughts from? Because we don't have to hold on to these thoughts. We don't have to hold on to these thoughts or beliefs about the diet industry and what we should be doing and what is enough. All we have to do is do what is enough for us and just take that one step forward and just keep moving forward and not giving up. And that's when enough is enough. Ask yourself, am I following these rules? And do I want to continue to follow these rules? And if you don't want to continue, scrub them out. Scrub them out and let them be gone. Let them be gone. And we're only going to focus on things now that make us feel good and that we want to do. And understand that you will get there. You will get to your journey. You will get to where you want to be. You will get to the size you want to be. You'll feel happy with your body when you're following these rules. The reason we give up or the reason we stop is because we're continuing to follow rules that don't apply for us. These rules that other people have set that may suit them, but it doesn't suit us. So that's we're only doing things that suit us. And the other thing is the reason that we would, when you decide what is enough for you, we go to bed and you might be, we're all busy mums. So we're all busy mums. You might go to work, you might come home from work, do the kids' homework with them, take them out to their swimming lessons, come back, fit in some exercise, take the dog for a walk, make dinner, clean up, tidy the house, do the washing, come back, and done a full day's work. And then you might still lay in bed at night and think, God, I didn't get that done. God, how could I not have done this? I've still got to do this. So we still don't think we've done enough. When actually, you've been amazing and you've got through so many things. So, I want you to go to bed and start recognizing that you have done enough and that you've done lots. And the fact that you got through whatever you got through in that day is enough. It's more than enough. And be proud of that. Instead of beating ourselves up about it and feeling that we have to do more, be proud of it and think, I've done enough today. And that's good enough. And, we need to recognize the good things that we've done instead of focusing on the negative and thinking that we need to do more. And doing enough is not an amount. It's a relationship that you have. And I want you to really think about it, about this relationship with having enough. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a number or I've ticked this many things off my list. We just have to recognize that we are enough and that we have done enough and change that relationship that we have with ourselves. So the thing that I want you to think about is when we're starting to make these small changes, and you're going to have these thoughts in your brain that are going to come and they're going to say, this is not enough. You're not doing enough. You need to work harder because of these beliefs. And I want you to, when these thoughts come up, I really want you to say, when your brain's telling you it's not enough, I want you to say, this is not enough. So your brain's going to say it's not enough. And you say, this is not enough. And you're going to say, and I'm also learning to start with something. Okay? So we're going to say, when your brain tells you it's not enough, you're going to say, and I have to start somewhere. I'm also learning that, and I have to start somewhere. And we're just taking that one step. Where I am now is completely different as to where I was 10, 12, 15 years ago. And if we just start with this step of giving ourselves some grace, compassion, and saying what we're doing is okay and what we're doing is enough, you're going to be way ahead of yourself of, are we going to get off this yo-yo, this diet loop that you've been on for years? There is a lot of power in this word and. So that's why when your brain tells you that, I want you to use the word and. And it brings you into the middle. So when we use this word and, it brings us into the middle. And it gets you out of this all or nothing mentality. So it's going to let you know that you're just going to do it anyway. We could be questioning when our brain's telling us we're not doing enough. You could say, well, actually, I don't know, because I've never tried it before. So we're just going to take this one step forward. The biggest diet killer, the biggest killer for our results is your brain. It's telling us constantly that we're not doing enough, that we're not good enough, that we need to work harder. And, that we failed, and then we give up. But the thing is that just accept you are where you are, and you are doing enough, and you are good enough, and just keep making small steps forward, because anyone that I've seen that has long-term results and has been able to keep it off and still live their life how they want to be, that is how they've got the results. And the more that you start convincing yourself that each little step counts and that you're doing better than yesterday, and you just got to always be looking for the win. The more that you do this, your brain's going to start to recognize that it is okay. And, because again, you don't know, because you've not done it before. We've only had this all or nothing mentality, or we've been really restrictive. We haven't been able to stick to something that's maybe so simple. Okay, so I want you to, more journal questions now. I want you to write down, what are your fears about losing weight, about being on a program, any of those things. So what are your fears? You have to pause me and spend the time to nut this out. And then I want you to write, what are your doubts? Okay, what are your doubts? They are still going to show up. It's okay. Our next question, I want you to define, what does enough look like to me right now? So what does enough look like to me right now? I just want you to write down the first things that come to your head. Then I want you, once you've written that list, I want you to re-ask yourself, do I want to live this way? So on that things, what's enough for you at the moment, on those things on that list, do you want to live that way? And can you live that way? So if you're telling yourself that you're going to exercise, enough would look like exercising for an hour every day. Is that something that you can realistically do? And can you live that way? And as we said before, the things, the things that you've written out, I want you to question, where did you even get that from? We want to really understand where we're living from. So where we're living from, where is your current situation? And what is enough for you in this situation, and how those things that you've written, is it really going to realistically work for you? And it's okay that they're going to change. The last question is, if you weren't worried about what other people thought or how long weight loss would take, what would you do? And I'm going to guarantee you that, that either options are going to get you where you want to be. So what would they will get you to where you want to be the desired weight, feeling good within your body. And what would that be? What would that look like to you? When we're thinking about how this would look like, what does each day look like for you? So what does it look like? What can you realistically stick to at this point in your life? So I want you to really write that down. And then I want you to think about, once you've written those down, please share it. I would love for you to share it. And I want you to think about, are you currently living that way? And if you're not, then let's start implementing it and working out how you can implement it, so we can really start chipping away and making those small steps forward. Remember, it is small steps that you are going to, these fears and anxiety and all that is going to come up. And it's never a straight road forward, but that's why I'm here to help you. So we're going to have these intrusive thoughts that are going to make us think we're not good enough and we need to stop, we need to change, it's not happening quick enough, all of those things. But that's why you have me. And I'm here to help you and guide you through that. Okay, I'm really excited to hear from you all and see how you get through this task.
Thanks for listening to the It's in You podcast. I hope you've been able to find this information of use to you. If you know someone who will benefit from listening to this podcast, please share. Make sure you share it with them so we can continue to spread our message and help empower women to have the bodies that they desire and still enjoy their life too. Make sure that you subscribe to our podcast so that you can be the first to know when a new podcast is released. If you do enjoy this podcast, please take the time to leave a 5-star review. It would be truly appreciated. Leaving reviews is one of the only way to help grow and share my message. If you do so, please make sure you take a screenshot, tag me in it and share it onto any of our socials. And if you send us a DM, I'll be able to send you a free gift straight to your inbox. Remember that you've got this and you can do anything that you set your mind to because it is in you. Much love, Renee.